evening and welcome to KTN Prime. My name is Betty Kialo.
And I'm Eric Njoka. Welcome to the program. It's Tuesday, the 25th of June, 2013. Day one of the consolidated teachers' strike, and the effect is being felt all across the country. Learning in all public schools was paralyzed today.
Wilkis Nyabo has the latest on this developing story and will be joining us now from the City Center studio. Well, Wilkis, what else happened today in regards to the teachers' strike?
Well, Betty, there was a flurry of activity as stakeholders in the education sector tried to come together and to reach deals, and we will be looking at that later in this bulletin.
Well, and away from the city, our North Rift senior reporter Marcy Kandia is in Eldoret and will be bringing us all the very latest from that region. Marcy, good evening. What is the situation where you are?
Good evening to you, Eric and Betty. Indeed, we're coming to you live from the City of Champions, where the teachers' strike, the 7th since 1997, had become a reality where students went to class, but there was no teacher in sight. There was no teacher on site. This and more details later on in this bulletin. Back to you, Njoka and Betty.
Well, Marcy, looking forward to your detailed report. And from our Kisumu Bureau, Fred Omulo is standing by to tell us more on how the Lakeside region is coping with the effects of the strike. Omulo, is Kisumu City feeling the heat?
Kisumu City is definitely feeling the heat, literally as well as what you can call practically. No teachers, no learning, and the secondary school teachers who actually commenced their strike last week are rejoicing a little bit, seeing that they are being joined by their primary school counterparts and the KNUT counterparts who are demanding their allowances. So things are really hot out here at the Lakeside City. Back to you, Betty.
Thank you very much. All be on standby. We begin our bulletin with that teachers' strike that has paralyzed learning in most public schools. And Wilkis Nyabo has been following up this story for us today. Wilkis, over to you.
Thank you, Njoka. Now, what happened in Nairobi today is that there has been a flurry of activity. Education and the stakeholders in the education sector just trying to come together and come to a compromise on the very first day of the consolidated strike. We did see the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers meet with persons from the TSC, the Teacher Service Commission, and also from KOTU, from the Federation of Kenyan Employers, trying to come to a deal. They would walk out of that place feeling frustrated. They said that they were not given enough to call off the strike. We also saw the Kenya National Union of Teachers absolutely boycott that meeting. They say they're not interested in anything except their dues. And in the midst of all this, there were the students who are left stranded. We have students who are actually left literally stranded by their teachers who had accompanied them to the drama music festivals in Maralal and abandoned them when the Kenya National Union of Teachers called for a strike. Let us now have a look at what the first day of the consolidated strike was like.
On Tuesday morning, it dawned on the country that teachers in public schools would not turn up for work, leaving students to their own devices. While in most schools, the candidates responsibly conducted revision sessions for other students, the strike provided a welcome reprieve from the tedium of daily lessons, allowing them to enjoy an extended play period that began the moment they stepped into the school compound. But it wasn't all fun and games. Hundreds of pupils would find themselves stranded in Maralal owing to the strike. The over 100 students from Baragoi, Wamba and Barsaloi had traveled to Maralal to attend the music festivals. When the Kenya National Union of Teachers called for a strike, the teachers who had accompanied them abandoned them.
Sasa walimu ndio hawa wameanza kutoroka, wameanza na wazazi pia, wazazi tumeanza kushangaa. Watoto wote watarudi namna gani?
Desperate parents spent the day hoping for a speedy resolution to the stalemate. Their hopes raised by the news that KOTU, the Federation of Kenya Employers, and the Cabinet Secretary for Labour had important announcements to make, only to be dashed when the government announced that the 1997 pay deal teachers are agitating for had been overtaken by events.
If it were a CBA, it would have given the Teacher Service Commission an authority to go to the government to look for money. But it was not there.
Talks between the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers and the Teacher Service Commission bore no fruit, as both maintained hard stances.
We have given instructions to the head teachers and our county directors, both of education and TSC, to ensure that we get accurate reports on attendance and other issues that may be taking place in the school setup.
The excuses that they have given are not sufficient enough or reason to ask our teachers to go back to work.
Mgomo unaendelea.
NAT leaders who did not attend the meeting vowed to stay put until their demands are addressed to their satisfaction. The first day of the strike now ending with the parties locked in a stalemate.
Thank you, Wilkista, for that report. Now, those were the day's developments in Nairobi with regard to the teachers' strike. Let us now cross over live to Eldoret, where our senior reporter Mercy Kandie is standing by. Well, Mercy, were the effects of the strike felt in the North Rift?
Yes, indeed, Betty Kello. The effects of the nationwide strike was felt within the North Rift region. We did a spot check earlier on in the morning, and in fact, in most of the schools that we went to, there was about 100% turnout in terms of the students who attended the classes. But to them, they only thought that the then news item previously last night was that it was just that, an announcement. But upon reaching class, the reality dawned upon them when they noticed that there was no teacher in sight. In fact, the ones that we found them in school had just come to collect a few things and leave. And also computer classes within some of the schools in Uasin Gishu County, the computer classes were traded with computer games, as you will get to see also. And also what happened here in Uasin Gishu County, the Kenya National Union of Teachers, NAT, and KUPPET had called for a demonstration calling upon teachers within Uasin Gishu County to take to the streets and demonstrate in echoing and backing up the NAT chairman Wilson Sosion, and they're saying they're not backing out. But what is worrying, however, is that most schools within this region had just resumed school after the mid-term holidays, and parents are torn in between because then they will get to use more money in, again, if the strike continues, in getting them from schools and then back home, and they just use the money to send them back to school after the mid-term holidays. So yes, this among the things that happened within Uasin Gishu County, and we will continue to update you, the viewer, in terms of what will develop in the coming week if the strike continues. From Eldoret Town, I'm Mercy Kandie, back to you in studio.
Thank you very much, Mercy Kandie. We'll rely on you to give us those updates. Now, from Eldoret, we now take you to the Lakeside region, and our senior reporter, Fred Omulo, is standing by at our Kisumu bureau. Now, Fred, it is said that learning was paralyzed in most public schools. How bad was it in the Kisumu city?
I mean, compliance with the strike action was probably, you could probably say 100%. In all the schools, all the public schools that we visited, there were absolutely no teachers. In one or two instances, and we did visit probably more than 10 schools, in one or two instances we actually found one, the principal, the headmaster or the headmistress, all alone by themselves, turning away the kids, telling them to go away, or some of them settling the kids in class and expecting maybe one or two teachers might pop up. So we had instances where students were actually learning by themselves until around lunchtime, and then at that point most of them were turned away and sent back home. In the afternoon, the Kenya National Union of Teachers Kisumu County branch summoned the media, gave us a briefing and said that the strike is on and they will not relent until Legal Notice 534 from 1997 is implemented to the letter, giving them their allowances. Now, in this region, I spoke with some of my colleagues in counties like Migori, Homa Bay, Kisinya, Mira, as well as Kakamega in Western, and the sense you get from there is that the compliance was just as high as it was within Kisumu County. And basically the thing that people are saying triggered all of this resentment, this readiness to strike, is the Sarah Serem Commission, the Salaries and Review Commission, relenting to the MP's demand for the salary. That was one of the biggest factors playing around here. Then they waited for the budget. When the budget was passed, and their legal notice was not implemented, things just boiled over. And it's from that point then they said that there's no turning back. We have a 1.6 trillion budget. We had this legal notice when the budget was 300 billion. It should have been implemented probably a decade ago. Back to you, Betty.
Well, thank you very much, Fred Omulo. That is the situation that is across the country. The strike is on. The teachers have remained adamant. They're saying that 47 billion shillings is too little for the government. They can afford it. And that's our basis for our big question tonight. And we ask you, do you think teachers should renegotiate the 1997 salary deal?
Well, send your yes or no response with a brief comment to the number 8040, and Eric and I will sample your views during this newscast and give you the poll results at the tail end of this live news bulletin.
And staying with the strike, and the Federation of Public Service Trade Unions is also threatening to mobilize public servants covered by collective bargaining agreements to down their tools.
Well, this will be done within 7 days if the government fails to honor agreements it has signed with various unions. Now, the public servants covered by agreements that have not been honored include university teaching and non-teaching staff.
The Federation of Public Service Trade Unions of Kenya, being the labor center to which all these unions affiliate, wishes to urge the government of Kenya to, with immediate effect and within the next 7 days, factor in all payments due to the workers within its role and covered by the CBAs here in above, or face industrial unrest never seen in this country before.
Now, as the government ponders on its next move in the wake of the strike, it should also be thinking of how to refurbish public schools to accommodate the large number of pupils and students enrolled since the free primary education was initiated in 2003. While most public schools built over 30 years ago remain the same, as nothing has been done to improve them, and with that they have deteriorated just as fast as the public education system. Catherine Omonto reports on the plight of public schools.
Education in public schools is deteriorating by the day. Kisumu Primary School in Nairobi's Kangemi area is a perfect example of the average public primary school, overcrowded and falling apart. They lack in facilities as simple as working toilets. Yet such schools are where the average Kenyan will take their children to get an education and compete in the job market. The slow death of public schools began in 2003 after the former President Mwai Kibaki made primary education free. Pupils, young and old, flooded classrooms that were never expanded, expecting to be taught by the same number of underpaid teachers. A pupil who comes to a public school like Kimbuini Primary School will have to sit the very same examination as a pupil who goes to a private school where they have their teachers at their beck and call, and they're probably not more than 30 in a class, and they have extracurricular activities that grow the pupil as an all-rounder. Here at Moi Avenue Primary School, pupils share the few textbooks available to them and revise. They know what they're up against. Their counterparts in private schools are going on with life uninterrupted. And this is the only way these pupils can give themselves a shot at a good high school and eventually a university. But is it enough? Until teachers and the government come to an agreement, pupils and students will have to fend for themselves, like this group hoping to win during the Samburu County Drama Festivals, only to be left by their teachers tasked not only to teach them, but also taking care of them while they were out of school.
Tukiwa kama wazazi, watoto wetu ndio hao wamekuja kuimba kwa Alamana Hall. Sasa walimu ndio hao wameanza kutoroka, wameanza na wazazi pia, wazazi tunaanza kushangaa. Watoto wetu watarudi namna gani?
While it is well and good that teachers are fighting for their rights, who will fight for the rights of the average Kenyan's child and give them a school they would be proud to go to? Catherine Omonto, KTN.
All right, so the nationwide teachers' strike began today. The teachers are demanding that the government honor a pay agreement reached between the teachers and the government back in 1997. Let's go back to 1997. The deal was reached after a 12-day strike that started on 2nd of October 1997. The agreement contained a scheduled A, indicating how the teacher's salary increment would escalate in percentage over a 5-year period, and the other schedule, Schedule B, which indicated how the allowances, namely house, medical, responsibility, special or hardship, and even commuter, will be improved over the period that was to end 3 years later, that's in 2001. Being an election year in 1997, the then government made the first payment of 34%. But after a second payment in 1998, payments stalled. Government claimed it did not have money, faced by tough economic times. In last year's teacher strike, where teachers were still pushing for the government to honor the 1997 deal, the then Minister for Education, the late Mutula Kilonzo, said that KNUT, that's the Kenya National Union of Teachers, had refused to recognize legal notice number 16 of 2003 that amended some clauses in legal notice number 534 of 1997. The SRC, the Salaries Remuneration Commission, and the TSC now claim the 1997 deal is now obsolete and that teachers need to renegotiate to meet their demands. The government would have to part with 47 billion shillings. Teachers have been on strike 7 times since the 1997 deal, agitating for full implementation of the agreement reached 16 years ago. Over to you, Betty.
Well, the focus of our bulletin tonight is, of course, on the teachers' strike that is detrimental to our education system. We now take a reminder to our big question tonight when we had asked, do you think teachers should renegotiate the 1997 salary deal? Do you think teachers should renegotiate the 1997 salary deal? Well, send a yes or no response with a brief comment to the number 8040, and Eric and I will sample your views during this newscast and give you a poll result at the tail end of this live news bulletin. Well, you are watching KTN Prime. Just ahead.
Just ahead on KTN Business Today, it's a deal gone bad between Equity Bank and Narok County government. Also, we'll let you know what exactly is wrong with the overrating of Rwanda's economy. Join me, Joy Doreen Bira, on this edition of KTN Business Today.
Welcome back to KTN Prime.
Now, 4 people were last night injured in a grenade attack in Wajir town. Police say the attackers hurled the explosive at a crowd before fleeing.
Now, the attack, which has been linked to the ongoing inter-clan fighting, came just days after political leaders from Mandera and Wajir counties agreed to a cessation of hostilities between the Gare and the Godia clans. But who exactly is behind the attacks? Rita Tinina reports.
The Wajir grenade attack came just hours after President Uhuru Kenyatta threatened to order the use of force to restore peace in Mandera and Wajir counties if the Gare and the Godia clans fail to cease hostilities.
Those who will break this ceasefire.
The immediate cessation of hostilities was one of the resolutions adopted by leaders from Mandera and Wajir counties during last weekend's mediation meeting in Nairobi. But some argue that the leaders are using the wrong approach.
For there to be any peace process, it should not happen at Red Court Hotel. It should happen where the conflict zone is. It should happen in Mandera town or Banisa or, at the ground.
Youth leaders from the 2 counties are now pointing an accusing finger at political leaders for fueling the inter-clan clashes.
It's no longer about pasture and water. This is completely politics.
The assertion by the youths is shared by the police.
That the clashes are politically instigated.
And even the leaders agree politics may have something to do with the hostilities.
Both communities must accept the democratic process resulting from the 2013 election while awaiting the outcome of petition.
And county government must adhere to the constitutional requirement in sharing of resources. Once that is done, I think this conflict will somehow subside.
Political leaders, youth leaders, and even the police are agreed that politics has something, or is it everything, to do with the current conflict. But it still remains a veiled accusation with no specifics of which politicians are behind the clashes. On the ground, the Gare constitute the majority in Mandera. In Wajir, it is the Degodias that have the numbers. The minority, the Godia in Mandera, are said to be disgruntled over the fact that many elective seats are held by the Gare, something analysts say could be fueling the conflict along the border of Mandera and Wajir counties. Several leaders from Mandera and Wajir have recorded statements with the CID over the clashes. With pasture, water and land out of the equation in the latest conflict, the spotlight will firmly remain on politicians and the government as it seeks a formula to end the inter-clan fighting. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Now, the National Assembly has unanimously approved the full list of principal secretaries. The 26 principal secretaries now await presidential appointment into the 18 ministries. During the debate, members of parliament say the bill to clearly spell out duties and roles of cabinet secretaries vis-a-vis those of principal secretaries is required to avoid duplication of duties. Among those now awaiting presidential appointment is former Internal Security Permanent Secretary Muter Iringo, nominated for principal secretary in the Interior Department under the Ministry of Interior and National Coordination.
Well, Iringo has been accused of trying to undermine the National Police Service Commission by sponsoring a bill to empower the Inspector General of Police, despite being under active probe by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission for misappropriation of funds for the disabled. The National Assembly rubber-stamped Josfeta Mukobe's nomination, saying if found at fault, she will be taken to court. Equally, MPs agreed that her academic qualifications were wanting, but nonetheless approved her on account of gender and disability. Equally sailing through with question marks is engineer Karanja Kibisho, who was not shortlisted for the principal secretary job. Former Kenyatta National Hospital Chief Executive Officer Richard Lesiyampe was equally approved as the Environment and Natural Resources Principal Secretary. The list is to be forwarded to the President for approval.
Oh well, and when it's Tuesday, you know what it is. How things work with Betty Kialo. And now to a weekly segment, How Things Work Tonight. My co-anchor for the day, Betty Kialo, tells us how the rubber, after a lot of hard work behind the scenes, finally meets the road. Take a look.
Cars, we love them, need them, use them, or dream of owning them. But you know, a car is just another metal blob without this. Tires. Ever wonder how tires are made? Tonight, we'll tell you how on How Things Work. Some call them shoes, others black circles. But whatever the name, they have come a long way in terms of evolution. From these to what you have today on your road machine, it can only get better. The tire-making process is one that will make you appreciate the ever-growing intelligence and determination of man to make work easier while still churning out quality products. This is the Yana Tire Factory. This production plant manufactures up to 2,400 tires a day, 62,000 in a month. Let's get this started. This is the storage facility. Here, rubber, which is the main ingredient of tires, is in abundance. Rubber, and more rubber. This rubber is imported mainly because Kenya does not have the rubber tree from which rubber is extracted from.
So the main raw materials when making tires, we have the rubbers, then we have the carbon black, then you have the textiles, those are the nylon fabrics, then you have the steel cords, then on top of that we have the rubber chemicals.
Well, in a short while, you will understand what those ingredients are all about. But for now, have you ever wondered why tires have to be black in color? While at the storage facility in the factory, I learned that the black color of the tire is not functional, but artistic. This simply means that you can have blue tires, yellow tires, red tires. Problem is, what happens when it rains? The black basically takes a load off your back in terms of cleanliness.
From the storage facility, everything starts to get exciting. All the ingredients move on the conveyor belt to this mixer. This is a band-bearing machine. Here, the rubber, carbon black, which is the pigment of tires, rubber chemicals are mixed. This control panel aids in the mixing of ingredients to achieve the required uniformity. When the mixing cycle is complete, the hot mixture is dropped onto the rolling mill. The mill acts like a giant pasta maker, ensuring all the rubber is in uniform thickness. Then it rolls onto the wigwag machine. Here, the mixed rubber is cooled and layered onto a manageable pile. The Quality Control Laboratory is the next stop. Here, the rubber is tested, and if it is approved, it goes on to the next stage. Here, the terminologies start getting a bit complex.
We check how the rubber is curing.
What's that?
It's code of organization now.
Make no mistake to think that we're even close to the end product. This is a part of the factory that begins the assembly process. The rubber that is now ready goes through two main processes, extrusion and calendering. During the extrusion process, tire components like tread and sidewalls are produced. During steel extrusion, steel cords that are in spools rotate and come out in a uniformed fashion, and the rubber is forced between them. The second process is calendering, whereby fabric that is made of polyester and nylon is coated with rubber.
So the inline one helps it in
From there, the tire components from the stages, remember the extrusion and calendering, now go to the assembly area where they are assembled onto each other. Then finally, the tire starts taking a familiar shape. The tire then goes to the next step where it is blown up and the steel belt and tread are added to obtain a green tire. The final process of the production is what they call curing. Well, this is not the typical medical process, but rather the baking process. Here, the tire is placed into the molds that are heated up to 180 degrees Celsius. They are cured for about 10 minutes to 1 hour, depending on the type of tire. It is here that the tire gets the tread pattern and the markings on the sidewall. Then, after the cure, the tire pops and drops. Before the tires leave the factory, inspection has to be done to ensure that no defective tire gets into the market. And that is how things work in the tire factory. Betty Kialo, how things work.
Coming up on KTN Sports today, we'll tell you what's in store for spectators early next month in the Safari Rally, and of course tell you the predicaments facing Gor Mahia as far as their coaching staff is concerned, and also tell you who is the new Real Madrid coach. All that on KTN Sports today.
We have given instructions to the head teachers and our county directors, both of education and TSC, to ensure that we get accurate reports on attendance and other issues that may be taking place in school setup.
It's the 25th of June 2013. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. Time for us to look at business. A Nairobi best hairdresser is the lucky winner of 10 million Kenya shillings. Her name is Damaris Kariuki, who was named the ultimate winner of the 44-day promotion by listed mobile operator Safaricom, dubbed Tetemesha na Safaricom. Sharon has the details.
For a couple living in one of the most squalid conditions in the city's informal settlement, life has slightly been average for them. Damaris, the lucky winner, is a hairdresser, while her husband, George Kariuki, hawks clothes in the city to make ends meet. But this might soon be no more following her win of the 10 million shillings.
Nikamuuliza, what do you mean? Akaniambia, you are the winner. Siku believe, but what I did, niliita tu Mungu wangu. Nikasema, oh my God. Yani hakuna kitu kingine nilisema.
Sinaona kazi yangu ni kubeba majako. Hiyo sasa kuchoka hiyo sasa inaonekana kama itaisha.
And today the sudden change in their lifestyle started showing as they arrived at Safaricom House to collect their 10 million winning prize in a chauffeur limo complete with security and dance. According to Safaricom CEO Bob Collymore, the 44-day promotion was all about rewarding their loyal customers to the tune of 500 million shillings.
We have rewarded our loyal customers, and it's great to see the winners to be ordinary wananchi.
Sharon Mumani, KTN Business Today.
Unlike its thriving economy, Rwanda's financial services sector still lags in the region. According to research by Ecobank, Kenyan banks with subsidiaries in Rwanda are also not faring on well. Michael Karanja tells us why.
For all the attention Rwanda receives as an investment destination, one would be mistaken to think the country's financial services sector was just as vibrant. But with just 9 commercial banks and 5 specialized financial institutions, Rwanda's banking sector is a green one, ranking 4th in the East African community.
The efficiency level is some of the worst in East Africa zone. And so if you look at those key metrics, you probably will not touch Rwandan banking. However, the penetration rate is one of the highest in East Africa. And I mean penetration, I mean the number of adult population, bankable adult population that are accessing both formal and informal financial services is at 72%. We're not even there ourselves at Kenya.
Total assets under management stand at $1.6 billion compared to $27 billion in Kenya. The country, however, does have a high savings culture through the Umurenga cooperative movement, with 72% of the adult banking population captured. Several Kenyan banks such as the KCB Group, Equity, FINA and INM Bank have opened in Rwanda, with a business model analysts believe will catch on as the appetite for banking services increases.
They've started from scratch. It's an organic model, so they don't go acquiring an existing name. So that's why you see you have to grow it organically. That's why they're taking time to be the top names. Yeah.
While the appetite for personal borrowing remains low, sectors such as tourism and construction are driving the banking sector. Analysts see the current trend changing given the high investment interest in the country. Michael Karanja, KTN Business Today.
The county government of Narok has terminated a 10-year deal the defunct county council entered with Equity Bank. The deal that has drawn controversy since it was signed gave the bank authority to collect fees from tourists heading to the Masai Mara Game Reserve. According to the Narok governor, Samuel Ole Tunai, the deal lacked integrity and transparency, hence was not accepted for his government. Equity Bank was part of the deal supposed to put in place smart cards for ease of accountability, but had failed to do so, according to the governor.
The county government issued a 14 days notice to terminate the agreement unless the breach was rectified. The 14 days expired last night at midnight on Monday, 24th June 2013, which effectively brings to an end the contractual rights and obligations contained in the agreement with Equity Bank.
And Kenya could be staring at another missed opportunity, stretching the country's green baskets threadbare. This follows the uncertainty around the traditional cereals producing areas where farmers are facing crop failures. This is largely attributed to the state-propelled fertilizer subsidy, which has largely failed to meet demand over the years, this year being no exception. Across Rift Valley, Kenya's bread basket, a majority of farmers, mostly small-scale, have missed out on subsidized top-dressing fertilizer, putting their crops at risk. And this is partly attributed to the woes of the National Cereals and Produce Board that is currently financially crippled. As a result, experts are now warning that this could spell doom for Kenya's quest to become a food-secure nation.
We lost a lot of, we have lost the potential to harvest because of the heavy rains during the beginning of the year. Farmers were unable to prepare their lands in good time. Those who prepared and even planted had problems with leaching. There was too much rains, so all the nutrients went down with the rains, and we expect our yield to be lower than what we had expected.
And well, that's it for business. I'll leave you with the financial markets report, where we take a look at how the Kenya shilling fared today. My name is Joy Doreen Vera. Good evening.
It is now time for KTN Sports Today. I am Nicholas Mudimba. Drivers from Great Britain, South Africa, Rwanda and Uganda are part of the 65 who will spice up the 61st KCB Safari Rally in Nairobi and Kajiado next month. The event will count down as the 5th round of the National Rally Championship. Carl Flash Tundo will be defending his title in the grueling two-day event. The presence of drivers from South Africa, Rwanda, Uganda and Great Britain will be a vote of confidence by the international running community as Kenya still hopes to host one of the World Rally Championship Series. But as the local motorsports body lobbies the FIA for consideration, participating drivers will train the energies of defending champion Carl Flash Tundo. Tundo will be gunning for his 5th straight title in the Safari Rally battle. Spectators' changes have been given opportunities to watch the cars from close range.
We're encouraging what is called a park and walk policy, whereby spectators, we will design some areas along the route where spectators can approach, park their vehicles in a secure parking, and then walk into the stage.
So we have to meet a lot of requirements as organizers, and we have people who are coming in from the FIA to look and see that we make sure those rules are implemented.
There will be a 90-kilometer stretch that will be a great test for many of the drivers taking part. The organizers relied heavily on the previous KNRC leg in Nakuru in deciding the route for the safari. Most of the drivers in Nakuru retired early due to mechanical hitches or after rolling the cars, and this time round, the organizers preferred flat courses.
We want to finish this time around, and we are going to finish this time around. I'm talking in the affirmative.
We had a bad last event. I think maybe we are trying too hard with our old car, and we tried hard, so hard that right on the first stage, a few kilometers into the stage, we rolled.
Among the leading foreigners are Jas Mangat from Uganda, all-rounders crew of Giancarlo Davide and Silvia Vinvogel in the main ARC class. Group S will feature usual suspects in Jaswinda Chana in a Toyota Celica, Nish Lahani in a Land Rover Hybrid, and many others. The remaining 3 legs of the series will be held later this year in Kisumu, Nairobi and Mombasa. right, moving on now. Croatian coach Zdravko Lagarusić's love affair with the Kenyan Premier League side Gor Mahia seemed to have come to an end. The club confirmed this evening that it has parted ways with the flamboyant coach after failing to report to work on Monday as expected. Club official Ronald Ngala told KTN over the phone that Lagarusić was shown the door under the breach of contract rule. Lagarusić had, before leaving for holiday, demanded a new contract with better remuneration before he could take a flight back to the country for the second leg of the season. He won 28 matches and lost 5 with Gor Mahia and is believed to have been the highest paid tactician in the local league with a monthly salary of $500,000 and was housed at an upmarket 3-bedroom apartment in Lavington. Now, Carlo Ancelotti replaced Jose Mourinho at Real Madrid, while former France international Laurent Blanc replaced Ancelotti at Paris Saint-Germain. PSG were reluctant to lose the former Chelsea and yet were subsequently linked with a number of coaches, including Spurs side Andres Villas-Boas and Russia's Fabio Capello. Blanc was confirmed as soon as Ancelotti was named Real's manager. Blanc jetted into Paris late on Monday evening, and after spending a hotel, he actually signed a 2-year contract, while Ancelotti has obtained a 3-year deal at Real Madrid and will be unveiled tomorrow. Ancelotti's first task after being presented is likely to clarify his role as the new manager of Real Madrid. And that's sports. I'm Nicholas Mudim. Have yourself a good night.
And it's a wrap right here on KTN Prime on the 25th of July 2013. Thank you very much for joining us and for watching. And how things work every Tuesday, I think we should be talking to Betty.
Yes, indeed. You should actually keep tabs. Maybe next week I'll tell you the secret ingredient of Coca-Cola. Just maybe.
Just maybe. The question of the day.
Question of the day.
Yes, question
All
of
right,
the day.
Let's revisit that question we had asked. Do you think teachers should renegotiate the 1997 salary deal?
Well, 67% of you say no, 33% of you say yes. Unfortunately, we'll not be able to read some of your comments, and we just have to say good night and thank you very much for watching this bulletin. I'm American Joker.
And I'm Betty Callow. Enjoy the rest of your KTN viewing.